This is pretty much the final act of part one.
Up nothing, the sun begins to peer above yon bosky hill. The day looks pale with his distemperature.
The southern wind has played a trumpet to his purposes. Foretells a tempest and a blustering day.
And with the losers, let it sympathize. But nothing can seem foul to those who win. And now, my lord of Worcester.
Hopefully this won't freeze.
It's not well that you and I should meet upon the terms that now we meet. You have deceived our trust and made us doff our easy robes of peace to crush our old limbs in ungentle steel. This is not well, my lord.
My liege, I do protest. I have not sought the day of this dislike.
You have not sought it? How comes it then?
Rebellion lay in his way and he found it.
Peace, Stuart, peace.
I must remember you, my lord. We were the first and dearest of your friends. It was myself, my brother, and his son that brought you home, and boldly did not dare the dangers of the time. But in short space, such a flood of sudden greatness fell on you, you took occasion to be quickly wooed. Forget your oath to us at Doncaster, and being fed by us you used as so was that ungentle hull the cuckoo's bird. Use it a sparrow!
Tell your nephew, the Prince of Wales doth join with all the world in praise of Henry Percy. I do not think a braver gentleman, more daring or more bold, is now alive. For my part, I may speak it to my shame. I have a truant been to chivalry. Yet this, before my father's majesty, I will, to save the blood on either side, try fortune with him in a single fight.
We love our people well. Even those we love that are misled upon your cousin's path. But will we take the offer of our grace? Both he and they, and you, yea, every man, will be my friend again, and I'll be his. We offer fair, take it nicely.
It will not be accepted on my life.
God befriend us. But our cause is just.
My nephew must not know, Sir Richard, the liberal and kind offer of the king. 'Twere best he did. Then we are all undone. It is not possible, it cannot be. The king should keep his word in loving us. My nephew's trespass may be well forgot. He had the excuse of youth and heat of blood, but all his offences live upon thy head and on his father's. We did train him up. We, as the spring of old, shall pay for all. Deliver what you will. I say 'tis so.
Okay, pause here for a minute. If you've got your books in front of you, what have they left out? Falstaff's little, I'm going to use the word interlude here. On the bottom of 820 in the left-hand column, okay? You have Prince, you have Hal talk with Falstaff briefly, and Hal leaves. And we see Falstaff left, and Falstaff gives this little speech. When the prince tells him, "Why thou owest God a death." Falstaff, "'Tis not due yet. I be so, excuse me. 'Tis not due yet. I would be loath to pay him before his day. What need I be so forward with him that calls not on me? That is, Why do I need to be forward with death? Looking for death when death isn't calling on me. Right? So he goes on. Well, 'tis no matter, honor pricks me on. Now, what have we seen of honor in Falstaff's demeanor thus far in the play?
You think it's just an empty word?
Nothing. He's not honorable. Okay? So, he says, honor pricks me on. Yea, but how if honor prick me off when I come on? What if it pricks me off the stage, off the world, off the ground? How then? Can honor set to a leg? No. Or an arm? No. Or take away the grief of a wound? No. Honor hath no skill in surgery then? No. What is honor? Okay. This is largely the theme of this entire play. Hotspur's every word and deed is informed by Hotspur's notion of honor. Okay? And it's partly integrity. It's partly, honor in battle and such. This isn't what Falstaff is dealing with, however. What is honor? A word? What is in that word, honor? What is that honor? Air. A trim reckoning. Who hath it? That is, who hath honor? He that died a Wednesday. Doth he feel it? Does the person who is dead feel honor? Do they seem honorable? For all accounts that are given, our ambassador who died in Benghazi was a very honorable man. The guy went back there. He wanted to go to Libya. He wanted to be helpful to the revolution and all that kind of stuff. Was his death honorable? Okay. Does he feel honor now? Falstaff is asking. No. Doth he hear it? No. 'Tis insensible then. Notice the pun. Insensible. It cannot be felt, tasted, touched, heard, seen. What does Falstaff, however, mean by insensible? Senseless, not logical. It's nonsense. It goes against every kind of intellectual sense as well as physical sense. Okay? Yes, to the dead, that is, it's insensible. But will it not live with the living? No. Now, in this little speech, Shakespeare is taking an age-old notion. I mean, this is an idea, if you've had me, or if you are unfortunate enough to have me in the future for English 3010, we'll talk about honor and glory and such in the Old English poem Beowulf. Because the Anglo-Saxons lived for honor. The only problem is, what kind of honor is it? It's honor once you're dead. It's the fame that lives on after you. Only problem is, in an Anglo-Saxon, pagan Anglo-Saxon society or Germanic society, once you're dead, that's it for you. Okay? So, 'tis insensible then? Yea, to the dead. But will it not live with the living? No. Why? Detraction will not suffer it. Detraction, being pulled out, will not suffer it. Therefore, I'll none of it. I'll have none of honor. Honor is a mere scutcheon. And you've got a gloss down at the bottom for scutcheon. Heraldic emblem carried in funerals, displayed on coaches, etc. The lowest form of symbol, having no pennon or other insignia. Okay? In other words, it's a mere adornment. It's like the Nike swoosh. It doesn't really mean anything. Okay?
It's a bumper sticker.
It's a bumper sticker. Notice, and so ends my catechism. Now, what is a catechism?
Question and answer.
It's what you really believe. It is a question and answer. You know, if you're Presbyterian, the catechism is, what is the chief end of man? To know God and love Him, to enjoy God and love Him forever, blah, blah, blah. And you have a whole bunch of other questions. He's giving his own catechism to what? To what he really, truly believes. Okay? So this is what Falstaff really believes about this notion of honor. And then after that, we get Worcester and Vernon have their little talk about the king's speech. Now notice in this production, what happens to the king just before he gives the speech? Why does he go over and hack up, you know? He's dying. That's what's going on. He's dying. He probably knows it. He knows he's very ill. Notice the surprised look on Worcester and Vernon's faces. They're not aware of this. Okay? So the king then gives his offer of grace, his offer of forgiveness. Falstaff then makes this speech about honor, which does what to the king's offer? How honorable is the offer? How honorable is the king? After all, how did the king become king? Through rebellion. Okay? Rebellion is never honorable according to the medieval / Renaissance worldview, which I'll talk a little bit about maybe later. Then you get Vernon and Worcester going back and forth. Notice how honorably they act. It's completely unhonorable. But what's the difference between Vernon and Worcester and Falstaff? At least Falstaff is honest in his dishonor. For Falstaff, it's as if everything in life serves or exists for one purpose: pleasure. He's a true hedonist. Okay? Worcester isn't like that. Worcester does believe in the idea and ideal of honor. He just doesn't act that way, like Hotspur did. Hotspur lives, and we will see, dies for honor. Okay?
Thou see me down in the battle, bestride me, so disappointed friendship. Nothing but a colossus can do thee that, friend. Say thy prayers and farewell. I would for bedtime now, and all well. Why? Thou owest God a debt. It's not due yet. I'll be left to bed before his day.
See what they've done? They've transposed this whole section.
Mother, what news? The king will bid you battle presently. There is no seeming mercy in the king.
Did you beg any? God forbid. The Prince of Wales stepped forth before the king, and cousin challenged you to single fight. How short is tasking? Seemed it in contempt? No, by my soul. I never in my life did hear a challenge urged more modestly. Cousin, I think thou art enamoured on his follies. Home! Home with speed! And fellows, soldiers, friends, can you consider what you have to do than I, that have not well the gift of tongue, can lift your blood up with persuasion? Let each man do his best! Hurry to hurry sound, on horse to horse, meet and live hard, till one got down and
for you. Go on, my blood. There's honor for you. I'm as hot as molten rain and as heavy too.
Let me like sword!
Don't keep that out of me, I need to go away from my own bowels.
What? Don't go idle here. Let me like sword!
Oh, how could you give me for free the one? Turn Gregory never did such deeds in arms as I have done this day. I've paid Percy, I've made him sore.
He is indeed and living to kill me. I'm pretty. Let me like sword!
Nay, before God, how did Percy be alive? I'll get on my sword, but take my pistol if I will.
Give it to me. What? Is it in the case?
My heart is hotness. That will sack a city.
What? Is it time to jest and die now?
All thyself up, it's too much. God's on a lucky to go you with him.
Aye, my lord, unless I keep bleed too.
Let me see your majesty. Move forward. As you retire and you amaze your friends.
I will do so. Lead him to his tent.
If I mistake not, thou art Harry Monmouth. Thou speaks as if I would deny my name. My name is Harry Percy. Why then I see a very valiant rebel of a name. I am the Prince of Wales, and think not, Percy, to share with me in glory anymore. 2 stars keep not their motion in one sphere. Well said, Hal. The hour has come to end the one of us. And would to God thine aim in offer thou as great as mine. I'll make it greater ere I part from thee. And all the budding honours on my crest I'll crop to make a garland for my head. I can no longer brook thy vanities.
Percy, thou art just food for
The worms, brave Percy. Fare thee well, great heart. Ill-weaved ambition, how much art thou shrunk, when that this body did contain a spirit, a kingdom for it was too small a bound. And now, 2 paces of the vilest earth is room enough.
Adieu.
Look at what the text says. I mean, I obviously skipped a bunch, but then you get the idea, and then, and take thy praise with thee to heaven. Thy ignominy sleep with thee in the grave, but not remembered in thy epitaph. Why does Shakespeare have Hal say that? What is Hal essentially saying to Hotspur? Say it again, Sarah.
No one remembers you.
Partially. I hope no one remembers you how?
Badly.
For your treason as a traitor, as a rebel. In other words, let all the praise you have earned take you to heaven. Let you be remembered in heaven as honorable, as noble, and let all the things that would remember him as false and traitors, what? Go to the other place. This is Hal's way of saying, I don't hold it against you. I forgive you. As we will see when we do Hamlet, Hamlet and Laertes exchange forgiveness. When they realize they've killed each other, Laertes says, let not my be sins counted on my head. And Hamlet says, no, I forgive you. Forgive me. And Laertes forgives him. So that they both die forgiven. Why is that important? If you forgive men their sins will be forgiven. That is, they go to heaven. Okay? So Hal forgives Hotspur here for his actions.
What old acquaintance? Could not all this flesh keep in a little life? I could have better spared a better man. Poor Jack. Farewell. Paolo, will I see thee by and by. Till then, in blood, by noble Percy lie.
Embalmed.
It's embalmed.
If thou embalm me today, I'll give you leave to powder me and eat me too tomorrow. The better part of valor is discretion. In the which better part I've saved my life. Soon, I'm afraid of this gunpowder Percy, though he be dead. How if you should counterfeit too and rise? But I'm afraid you would prove the better counterfeit. Therefore, I'll make him sure. Yeah, I'll swear I killed him. Why may not he rise as well as I?
Why may not Hotspur rise as well as Falstaff? Okay, other than because he's dead. What is he not that Falstaff is?
Faking it.
I mean, Falstaff says, I'll counterfeit. Why may he not? Because nothing Hotspur does is counterfeit. When you see Hotspur, you see the whole deal. He doesn't shy anything away. With Falstaff, everything is a game. Everything is an act. Okay? So when he says, why may he not rise as me? Because Falstaff's a coward. Okay? The better part of valor is discretion. How much discretion was there in Hotspur? Not enough. Okay? So we get an absolutely disgusting scene right here.
Nothing confutes me but eyes. Nobody sees me. Therefore, Sirrah, with a new wound. Come here along with me.
So what has he just done?
Taking credit for that.
Okay, he takes credit for killing Hotspur. What else has he done?
Yeah. Well, he's covered himself in blood, so it looks like he's been in battle.
Okay, that's all part of the counterfeit. He's just desecrated a
Yeah,
corpse.
he's just
We don't like it when, we Americans don't like it when other peoples desecrate our dead, like in 1993 Somalia, dragging the guys from the Black Hawk through the streets of Mogadishu, okay, or our contractors in Fallujah, or Baghdad, or the ambassador through the streets of Benghazi. It's not good. Why? Because there's something sacred, there's something honorable about the body. That's why, typically, in wars, even though the dead of the enemy are gathered, you even allow your enemy that are alive to gather their dead and bury them. Okay? Except for in, quote-unquote, pagan cultures, ancient Greece. If you really wanted to get to the enemy, what did you do? What did Achilles do with Hector's body?
circle.
Drag him in a circle behind your chariot till the body does what? Falls apart, and then you just leave it for the birds. Okay. Now, in ancient Greece, that was because if the body wasn't buried, the soul would not rest. Okay? So here, Falstaff's going to claim credit for killing Hotspur. Now, obviously, what gets left out of the play? What should happen to Falstaff while Harry and Percy and Hal are fighting? He fights the Douglas. Notice it's the Douglas. Because he's the big one. Okay? But we don't see that.
Ill-spirited Worcester. Did not we send great pardon in terms of love to all of you? Noble Earl and many a creature else has been alive this hour, if like a Christian thou hast truly borne betwixt our armies true intelligence.
What I have done, my safety urged me to.
Bear Worcester to the death.
So much for his plans for safety.
And Vernon too. Other offenders we will pause upon.
Did you not tell me this fat man was dead?
I did. I saw him dead. Art thou alive? Thou art not what thou seemst.
No, that's certain. I'm not a double man, but if I'd been on Jack Falstaff, then am I a Jack? There is Percy. If your father will do me any honour, so, if not, let him kill the next Percy himself. I look to be either Earl or Duke, I can assure you.
Boy, Percy, I killed myself and saw thee dead.
Is thou? Lord, Lord, how this world is given to lying. I grant you I was down and out of breath, and so was he, but we rose both at an instant and fought a long hour by Shrewsbury clock. If I may be believed, so. If not, then they should reward valour, bear the sin upon their own heads. I'll tell you about my death I gave him. This wound in the thigh. If the man were alive and would deny it, zoons, I would make him eat a piece of my sword.
This is the strangest tale that I've ever heard.
This is the strangest fellow, Brother John. Come. Bring your luggage nobly on your back. For my part, if a lie may do thee grace, I'll gild it with the happiest terms I have. Come, brother. Let us to the highest of the field, to see what friends are living, who are dead. Full bravely hast thou fleshed thy maiden sword.
I'll follow, as they say, the reward. He that rewards me, God reward him. If I do grow great, I'll grow less, for I'll purge and leave sack and live cleanly, as a noble man should do.
One problem with that is he isn't a noble man.
How goes the field? Thus ever did rebellion find rebuke. Rebellion in this land shall lose his sway, meeting the check of such another day.
Okay. Lights, watch your eyes. Now, look again at the final scene in the text. we hear King Henry say those lines, "Thus ever did rebellion find rebuke." And then what? And then we see the lines that he earlier said, in the film at least, to Worcester and such. Okay? "Thus ever did rebellion find rebuke," and then he rebukes the rebels. See, in Shakespeare, actual text, it makes much more sense the way it's presented, because he goes on and directly rebukes the rebels. What's the problem with that speech?
He was also, well, he was.
He got the throne through an act of rebellion. Okay? So the prince goes on and talks about when the king asked, "How goes the field?" "The noble Scot, Lord Douglas, when he saw the fortune of the day, quite turned from him. The noble Percy slain, and all his men upon the foot of fear, fled with the rest. Falling from a hill, he was so bruised, pursuers took him. At my tent the Douglas is." And he beseeches his father, "Let me dispose of him." Now, what can dispose mean? Can't mean kill. The king says, "With all my heart." So he tells his little brother, John of Lancaster, "I'm going to give you this honor." What will this do? This will raise the estimation of John in the eyes of the soldiers. Okay? "Go to the Douglas and deliver him up to his pleasure." That is, give him his freedom. Okay? "Ransomless and free. His valor shown upon our crest today have taught us how to cherish such high deeds, even in the bosom of our adversaries." That is honor. Hal sees honorable acts, even in his enemies, and says such honor should not go unpaid. Can it be dangerous? Yes. Douglas could go back to Scotland and launch another war. But what is it more likely to do? Turn him into an ally. Okay? The king. "So this is what remains. We must now divide our power. You, son John, my cousin Westmoreland, da-da-da-da-da." And so he doesn't mean divide, you're going to get a third of the kingdom, you're going to get a third, you're going to get a third. The way the rebels had plotted to divide the kingdom. He says, no, the battle isn't over. This particular Battle of Shrewsbury is over. The larger battle against the rebellion, however, still goes on apace. Okay? So, turn the page, several, and you get the second part of Henry IV. And this second part begins not immediately. Not, the screen goes black and then it comes light again and an hour later. But it is within days. Okay? Because you begin with that rumor. Bottom of page 830. With this induction. Rumor speaking. Okay? And notice rumor, we're told, is out in front of Northumberland's castle. And so the very first thing we see is Lord Bardolph, a different Bardolph than Falstaff's friend, okay, speaking with Northumberland. And what does Bardolph relate? What has he heard about the Battle of Shrewsbury? That the rebels won. That Prince Hal is dead, or taken. Sorry, I can't remember which. The king is wounded almost to the death. Harry is slain outright. Okay. Hold on a second. I just want to cue this up. Stop. The king is taken. Prince Harry is dead, killed by the hand of Douglas. Prince John and Westmoreland and Stafford have all fled. And Harry's Monmouth brawn, the Hulk Sir John, is prisoner to your son. Who's the Hulk Sir John? Falstaff. Okay. Northumberland. How is this derived? Where did you get this news? Why does he ask that? Wants to know if it's true. Because what often happens with the case of rumors? They're not true. Saw you the field? Did you see this with your own eyes? Okay? This is a major theme in Shakespeare. He loves this theme of appearance versus reality. Okay? In fact, we saw it. It was alluded to. Let's see if I can find it real quickly. There at the end of Henry IV, Part 1. When Falstaff says, "Didst thou, Lord, Lord, how this world is given to line? I grant you I was down and out of breath, and so was he, but we rose both at an instant, and fought a long hour by Shrewsbury clock. If I may be believed, so. If not, let them that should reward valor bear the sin upon their own heads. I'll take it upon my death. I gave him the wound in this wound in his thigh. If the man were alive and would die, zounds, I would make him eat a piece of my sword." And even earlier than that, when Falstaff talks about the situation with Hotspur and counterfeiting, therefore, top of page 824, right-hand column, "Therefore I'll make him sure, yea, and I'll swear I killed him. Why may not he rise as well as I? Nothing confutes me but eyes, and nobody sees me." Nobody sees me. There is no proof. Okay? And in the version we saw in the production, he uses the word a seeming. Anything that seems true may not be true. Okay? That's the problem with that verb. It's a subjunctive verb. It indicates possibly a condition contrary to fact. Okay? So, saw you the field with your own eyes. You'll see, are we doing Othello? We are doing Othello? Okay. You'll see in Othello demands proof that his wife is false to him. He says to Iago, "Give me the ocular proof." The only problem is, what? Okay, there is, in Othello, there is no real ocular proof because Desdemona is completely true to him. What can our eyes do? They can be deceived. And in Othello, he is deceived. He's led to believe what he wants to believe. Okay? He's led to see what he thinks is already the case. So, came you from Shrewsbury? I spake with one, my lord, that came from thence. A gentleman and well-bred, of good name, freely rendered me these news for use. Okay? Or these news for true. I got it from a witness. Now, if this were a court of law, what would this be called? Which is not admissible. Okay? So, Travers comes in. Now, Travers, what good tidings comes with you? What good tidings? He's hoping for good tidings because Lord Bardolph has just given him good tidings. My lord, Sir John Umfreville turned me back with joyful tidings, being better horsed, outrode me. After him came spurring hard a gentleman almost forspent with speed, that stopped by me to breathe his bloodied horse. He asked the way to Chester, and of him I did demand what news from Shrewsbury. He told me that rebellion had bad luck. and the young Harry Percy's spur was cold. Notice Shakespeare's punning. The one nicknamed Hotspur. His spur's now cold. Dead. Cold in the earth. The one whose honor was before so on fire that it led a rebellion is now as cold as the snow-covered ground. With that he gave his able horse the head, and bending forward struck his armored heels against the panting sides, and departed. Northumberland. Again? What? Said he, young Harry Percy's spur was cold? Of Hotspur? Cold spur? Okay. This is an example, by the way, of why later 18th century writers like Samuel Johnson, or Samuel Johnson in particular. Have any of you had an 18th century course? Johnson did not like Shakespeare. For the simple reason that Johnson said, Shakespeare never met a pun he didn't like. If he could pun on something, Shakespeare would. And that's pretty much true. Okay? Which is, I think, one of the reasons why everybody should read Shakespeare. He is a genius when it comes to playing on the various meanings of individual words. That rebellion had meant ill luck. I'll tell you, my lord, if my young lord, your son, have not the day upon mine honor, for a silken point I'll give my barony. Bardolph is still hanging on to his word. He says, I'll give my barony. That is the land that I've been entitled to. Why should that gentleman that rode by Travers give then such instances of loss? Why should he lie? Why shouldn't he? Bardolph is saying. Maybe there's some other reason. Now comes Morton. Okay? This man's brow, like to a tidal leaf, foretells the nature of a tragic volume. I mean, just those two lines are sheer beauty. Like to a tidal leaf. What does that mean? The title page of a book. And the book is all of what? Woe. Tragedy. So what does this man's face, what does Morton's face show? Great sorrow is coming. So looks the strand, whereon the imperious flood hath left a witnessed usurpation. Okay? What does that mean? What happens, after rains like yesterday? You have high water marks left, right? Where all the flotsam and jetsam get raised up, and then as the water subsides, you end up with all these leaves and debris. That's what's left on this man's face. The leaves, the debris, the detritus of war. Nothing but pain and agony. Say, Morton, didst thou come from Shrewsbury? I ran from Shrewsbury, where hateful death put on his ugliest mask to fright our party. What is our party? The rebels. Okay? What is hateful death doing? Stop. It's trying to frighten our party, our rebellion. Why? Stop. Northumberland, how doth my son and brother? Thou tremblest, and the whiteness in thy cheek is apter than thy tongue to tell thy errand. You don't even need to speak. I already know the truth. And it's not because of what Travers already said. It's Morton's face that bears everything. So dull, so dead in look, so woe begone, Douglas is living, and your brother yet. But for my lord your son, he is dead. Notice, nice, short, simple, declarative sentence. Why he is dead. No question. See what a ready tongue suspicion hath. In other words, I think what Northumberland is telling us there is even before Bardolph, Travers, and Morton arrived, he knew it wasn't going to be good. Because keep in mind, what was the rebel force supposed to have? More people. It was supposed to have Northumberland's army, and it was supposed to have Owen Glendower's army, with Mortimer's army. So it was missing essentially 3 of its 4ths or 5ths. It was missing the majority. They were merely, I should say, outnumbered. So, they talk a little bit longer, and Morton says to Bardolph, when Bardolph says, I cannot think, my son, your lord is dead. It's hard to imagine, he is saying, a world without Harry Percy. I mean, we don't have in our society military heroes of this kind. I mean, yes, we have military heroes. We have guys who do amazing things, unthought of things in the heat of war or in theaters of battle. But their names aren't known the way Harry Percy's name is known. I mean, we did have men earlier wars like that. You know, we had our Washingtons. We had our, Ethan Allens. We had our Nathan Hales. We even had in the 20th century our local VA hospital named after him, our Alvin Yorks. Okay? Or Audie Murphys from like the Second World War. But Korea, Vietnam, you could say, yeah, we have our John McCains. But John McCain is not the kind of war hero that a Nathan Hale or an Alvin York was. He's a hero because he survived 5.5 years in Hotel Hanoi. Okay? He didn't do the things that Hotspur did. Paul?
I mean, he's not just a remarkable soldier, but he's also like a senator and an NFL star too.
Yeah, and a movie star.
Yeah, he's politically powerful, and
he's a celebrity.
Yeah.
When celebrity really meant something. Okay?
Yeah.
He's not George Clooney, in other words. He's George Clooney if George Clooney really did something. He's JFK. He's JFK. PT 109, you know. He's a real military hero who has great looks. He has a great following. He's a senator. He's a president, etc. Okay? At least I use Clooney and not Barack Obama. At least Clooney, well, I shouldn't get off on that political tangent. I won't go there. Okay? So, Morton says, I was going to say, at least Clooney's done something, you know. Tried to do something with the whole problem in Sudan. I mean, he has staked his name, partially at least. I won't say anything about that. So, Morton goes on. I'm sorry I should force you to believe that which I would to God I had not seen. You need to believe it, Bardolph. Percy isn't coming back. What does that really mean? We've lost our greatest rallying point. Okay? People flocked to Henry Percy's banner. But these mine eyes saw him in bloody state, rendering faint quittance, wearied and outbreathed, to Harry Monmouth. Now, keep in mind, the image we just saw with what Morton says here. He was rendering faint quittance to Harry Monmouth, whose swift wrath beat down the never daunted Percy to the earth. What did we see in the film production? It was exactly the opposite. It was Harry Percy who beat Harry Monmouth to the ground. How did Hal kill Hotspur in the film? Where did he hit him with the dagger? Not in the stomach. Groin. Hotspur comes over him. Harry's on the ground. Hal's on the ground. Hotspur comes over him, does this. He doesn't stand right over him, but he stands in such a way so that Harry simply, it's an uppercut straight through the groin. So that when Hotspur says, bottom of page 823, "Oh, Harry, thou hast robbed me of my youth." In the film version, what does he do? He looks down. Okay? He's not just saying, "Oh, I'm young and I'm handsome and I'm in the prime of life." He's saying, "Harry, you robbed me of my manhood," in both senses of that. Okay? Harry, or Hal, unmanned Hotspur, castrated him in his moment of death. Okay? Here, in the film version, it makes Hal look weaker, right? I mean, go back to those lines in the play. Page 823. Hal and Harry Percy are talking. Hotspur says, "If I mistake not, thou art Harry Monmouth. Thou speakst as if I wouldst deny my name. My name is Harry Percy. Why, then I see a very valiant rebel of that name. I am the Prince of Wales." What does that mean? I mean, he's loading up all the regal dignity and honor of the title. And think not, Percy, lower than me, to share with me in glory anymore. And here we have the speech all told together. Two stars keep not their motion in one sphere, nor can one England brook a double reign of Harry Percy and the Prince of Wales. In other words, this sceptred isle ain't big enough for the two of us. One of us has got to go. And that's why Hotspur says, "Nor shall it. The hour's come to end the one of us. Would to God thy name in arms were now as great as mine." Thy name in arms. What's he talking about?
I wish you were famous enough for me to kill.
Famous enough.
Or not famous, considered a badass enough.
Okay. Still works. The rumor of your strength in arms was as good as mine.
Not even the stories.
Okay? Because how is Hal known? He's a wanton. He's a wastrel. He's a good for nothing. He spends his time whoring and robbing and drinking with Falstaff. That's why, earlier in Act 3, Scene 2, when he's invited by his father to come for a chat, and his father says, "You're like the former king was." So that, when people see you in public, it's, "Oh, it's the prince, not a big deal." Whereas, he says, "I comported myself so that when I would go out and people would see me, they would say to their children, 'That's the king.'" It's why, Queen Elizabeth isn't out walking Oxford Street in the mall every day. She stays reserved. The name must mean something. Okay? Hotspur is saying, your name doesn't mean anything. Okay? How? I'll make it greater ere I part from thee. Just because Hal has been spending his time in the stews, whorehouses, does that mean he is not capable with weapon? No. And that's exactly how he wants it to be. So that when we see that early soliloquy of Hal's, go back to Act 1. What we saw in the film, Hal's walking through the drinking house and everything, and we hear his thoughts. I know you all, and will a while uphold the unyoked humor of your idleness. Okay, I know you all. This is all of his friends. And will a while uphold the unyoked humor of your idleness. Unyoked means unbridled. The humor of their idleness, the fun of their idleness is completely carefree. They don't limit it at all. Yet herein will I imitate the sun, who doth permit the base contagious clouds, the sky today, to smother up his beauty from the world, that when he please again to be himself, being wanted, he may be more wondered at, by breaking through the foul and ugly mists of vapors that did seem to strangle him. What are the vapors that seem to strangle Hal? Falstaff, Pons, Bartles, Peto, Mistus Quickly. They seem. He is saying, they don't really. He is saying, I really am the sun, and I will shine when I want to shine. Of vapors that did seem to strangle him. If all the year were plain holidays, to sport would be as tedious as to work. But when they seldom come, when holidays seldom come, they wished for come. Then they're longed for. And nothing pleaseth but rare accidents. So when this loose behavior I throw off, and pay the debt I never promised. What's that debt? To be king. To be princely. It's the debt that Prince William today pays every day. That Prince Harry doesn't. Harry wasn't thinking of that debt when he was off, gallivanting in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago. He is paying that debt now that he's at Camp Bastion in Afghanistan, where 4 Marines just died in the defense of that camp and Harry Wales, as he's known. But how much better than my word I am? Deeds, actions. Words, actions. Words, deeds. How much better, he says, than my word I am, by so much shall I falsify men's hopes. He wants people to think less of him. He wants Harry Percy to think he is, as Percy calls him, that madcap prince. Why? So that when they finally meet, what will Hotspur do? He'll underestimate him. He'll underestimate him. And then Harry will show, or Hal will show his true colors. And like bright metal on a sullen ground, my reformation, glittering o'er my fault, shall show more goodly and attract more eyes than that which hath no foil to set it off. He is saying, I'm going to act such that my character now will be the foil for my real character. In other words, when the king addresses him in Act 3, Scene 2, what could he say? When he says, I'll be more myself, okay, what else could he say? You're preaching to the choir here. He could say, oh, no, got it under control. See, this is what I'm really doing. But the king needs then, Act 3, Scene 2. He needs then for Hal to be the prince. He needs then for the king to instill, the future king, to instill that kingly fear in the rebels. But at that point, Hal can't, can he? He can only do it through what he's done. To instill such fear that Morton comes out and says, to Harry Monmouth, whose swift wrath beat down the never daunted Percy to the earth. Never daunted implies Percy's never been beaten down to the earth before. He's never taken a step backwards. From whence with life he never more sprung up. In few, that is in few words, his death whose spirit lent a fire even to the dullest peasant in the camp. Being bruited once took fire and heat away from the best tempered courage in his troops. When his troops saw Hotspur dead, what happened to them? He took away their will to fight. Happens frequently in battle. You kill the most famous person. You kill the biggest warrior, the strongest warrior, and the rest kind of go, oh, if our biggest, strongest guy is dying, what's it going to do to me? And notice in the film version also, what did the king do towards the middle of, no, take that back, just before the beginning of Act 5? You had people dressed as the king going out into battle. In other words, you had counterfeits, decoys. Okay? There is no decoy of Hal. There is no decoy of Hotspur.
A gallant knight he was, his name was blunt, semblably furnished like the king himself.
Exactly. Okay? So he goes on, I'm skipping a few lines. Line 121. So did our men, heavy in Hotspur's loss, lend to this weight such lightness with their fear. The arrows fled not swifter toward their aim than did our soldiers, aiming at their safety, fly from the field. Hotspur was dead, we turned tail. Northumberland. For this I shall have time enough to mourn. That is, for my son's death, I'll have plenty of time to mourn. But what must happen now? War council. We've got to prepare. In other words, the rebellion's not over. He's not going to send a peace emissary to King Henry. Okay? So, he throws away his crutch, he takes off his nightcap, and says, hence, therefore, thou nice crutch, the scaly gauntlet now with joints of steel must glove this hand, and hence, thou sickly coif, thou art a guard too wanton for the head, which princes, fleshed with conquest, aim to hit. He means Hal is now going to be kind of puffed up. He's going to think he's mightier than he is, and he's going to come looking for me. Now bind my brows with iron. This is a beautiful kind of mental arming speech. Let me put on all my arms and approach the ragged hour that time and spite dare bring to frown upon the enraged Northumberland. Because now he's not only fighting against King Henry for principles. Okay, the cause behind the rebellion. Why else is he? A much more basic, a much more primal reason. Revenge. You killed my son. You know, kind of like the Princess Bride. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Okay? So he says, let one spirit of the firstborn Cain reign in all bosoms. What's that one spirit? Murder. Bardolph, no, don't go so far. He says, this strained passion doth you wrong, my lord. Why? How's he sick? No, you're partially right. He's heart sick for one thing. He is physically sick. Okay? What else? What's he allowing to have control? Rage. Passion. What should remain in control? Reason. Because what happens when you strike out of passion rather than out of reason? You miss the mark. Okay? You miss the mark. If you're an athlete and your team gets down a certain number of points and you start reacting solely out of passion, you'll fall apart. But it is, I used to play soccer. It is possible to come from behind, to come from a 3-0 deficit and to win. But you can't do it by just getting angry and starting fouling all the time. Okay? You've got to maintain control. You have to take control of the game. That means channeling, directing that rage. Okay? That's what Bardolph and Morton and Travers want him to do. So, we're going to skip some. Go on to Act 1, Scene 2. We see Falstaff with his page. Did he have a page in the first play? No. Why? Because now he has received some honors. After all, what did Prince Hal, do? He let Falstaff take credit for the killing of Hotspur. Sir, you giant, what says the doctor to my water? What's his water? His urine in a bowl. Okay? He peed in a bowl. He gave his page to take it to the doctor. Renaissance days, the doctor would look at that and tell him what his health was, his condition by it, the page. He says the water itself was good, healthy water, but the party that owed it, he might have more diseases than he knew. Okay? It doesn't make sense. Why? Does the doctor know whose water it is? Yes. So the doctor says, the water's okay. But he who owns it, no. He's sick. Okay? So notice the juxtaposition. We have Northumberland with his men, Falstaff with his men. Northumberland and his men are talking about Northumberland's loss, and Falstaff's talking about his urine. Okay? And we get the description of Falstaff, and part of the description is, as we've seen before, he's grossly fat. Okay? And Falstaff's kind of lording it over this page. And notice the Chief Justice comes in. What does the Chief Justice want? Or why is the Chief Justice there? Falstaff's in trouble kind of still, right? What has saved Falstaff really from going to the noose? He killed Hotspur. Where is Hal at this point? he says, the Chief Justice says, I imprisoned him. I'm trying to find where. I can't find it. But they're talking about how Falstaff has fallen. And the Chief Justice says, 117, you're fallen into the disease, for you hear not what I say to you. Okay? And Falstaff's he's acting dumb here. He's acting like he doesn't hear correctly. Okay? And the Chief Justice says, I should punish you. And Falstaff, I'm as poor as Job, my lord, but not so patient. Your lordship may minister the potion of imprisonment to me in respect of poverty, but how should I be your patient to follow your prescriptions? I sent for you when there were matters against you for your life. He's talking about before the Battle of Shrewsbury. I sent for you. You were supposed to come to me. You never came. I couldn't. Okay? Chief Justice, you have misled the youthful prince. The young prince hath misled me. I am the fellow with the great bellow, and he my dog. While I'm loath to gall a new-healed wound. Your day's service at Shrewsbury hath a little gilded over your night's exploit on Gad's Hill. The Chief Justice is saying, I know what you did. You robbed those people. Okay? All is well. The Chief Justice is saying it's been taken care of. Keep it so. Wake not a sleeping wolf. Who's the sleeping wolf? The Chief Justice. Okay? You're square with the law now. Don't get out of square. All right? And the Chief Justice goes on. You follow the young prince up and down like his ill angel. The proverbial little devil on his shoulder? Not so, my lord. Your ill angel is light, but I hope he that looks upon me will take me without weighing. Virtue is of so little regard in these costermongers' times that true valor is turned bare word. Bear baiting is what he's talking about. Okay? Pregnancy is made a tapster. Tapster, a woman who fills the mugs and such, and all the other gifts are pertinent to man. You that are old, consider not the capacities of us that are young. Okay? Do you set down your name in the scroll of youth, that are written down old with all the characters of age? He says, let me see, what are those characters? You have a moist eye, a dry hand, a yellow cheek, a white beard, a decreasing leg, an increasing belly. Is not your voice broken, your wind short, your chin double, your wit single, and every part about you blasted with antiquity? And you call yourself young? Well, I was born about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He's playing the part of a jester here, with a white head and something around belly. For my voice, he's going to answer the charges. Lost it with hallowing and singing of anthems. He says, to approve my youth further, I will not. In other words, I've given you 2 proofs, but I'm not going to go any farther than this. I am old only in judgment and understanding. He that will caper with me for 1,000 marks, let him lend me the money and have at him. Okay? God send the prince a better companion. You're not doing him any good. Well, the king hath severed. God send the companion a better prince. The king hath severed you and Prince Harry. Henry IV has said no more. I hear you're going with Lord John to up north. Okay? There's another comment there. Okay, we'll stop there. We'll pick up with 1-3 on Thursday. We'll probably get through most of the play, if not all of it.